Татьяна, Иван, 74 983. Дмитрий, Ольга, Константин, Ольга, Борис, Леонид, Елена, Федор, 05 73 26 83. Николай, Женя, Татьяна, Иван. Николай, Женя, Татьяна, Иван. 74 983. Дмитрий, Ольга, Константин, Ольга, Борис, Леонид, Елена, Федор. 05 73 26 83. Прием.
What's going on, guys? So we have some major breaking news here. I wasn't actually planning to go live, but some stuff popped up, so I definitely want to cover it. So I figured it would be best to go live. So I hope you guys are doing well. Let me know if my sound is good. Let me know if the stream is working good. What's going on, cats? How's it going? Jacqueline James, Captain Charisma says black bears are invading Pennsylvania. Yeah, they've always been here. Pennsylvania has a very dense black bear population. They have the largest black bears in North America too. We have the largest black bears in North America here. They get massive. What's going on, Island Girl? How's it going, Island Girl? Sal Tarantino, Matthew Smith, Lisa DeGoyler, Mr. Landfill. Yeah, I'm getting some sleep. Yeah, I got like 8 hours, 7 hours today. And then yesterday I had like 5 hours. So not too bad. Love my haircut. Thank you. Appreciate that. What's going on, Mitch? All right, so I'm going to share my screen here. There's a lot of stuff I have to cover, so I want to just jump right into it so we can get it done as quickly as possible. So let me jump right in. So what I was playing at the beginning of the stream was that was the Russian buzzer. Okay, so the Russian buzzer is nobody knows what it really is, but it's basically some kind of coded messages that get sent out, and the Russian buzzer was active today. Also, it was active in the Southern Military District, which is where Prigozhin, during the coup, that's where Prigozhin took over the headquarters there. And so, Putin had an emergency meeting of his Security Council today. So, things are moving along. So let me just start sharing some stuff here with you guys. So the major breaking news, if you guys didn't see, Vladimir Putin, he gave a speech today. It was very quick. It was like 5 minutes. And then he had an emergency meeting with his security council. Okay, an emergency meeting. All right, with his personal, security council, kind of like we have our national security council here in the United States. So he had a meeting with his security council, and then he had a speech. Prigozhin broke his silence, and he gave like a 10-minute explanation of what happened. And, to summarize, basically, Prigozhin said that it was never his plan to overthrow the government of Russia. His plan was to basically wake people up in Russia, to make a statement. That was basically the goal. The goal was never to get into like a big battle, with the Russian army or none of that. That's what he was saying. Whether that's true, we don't know. But that's according to what he said, that the goal was never to actually like overthrow the government of Russia. That this was all just like basically a big, just kind of like a campaign, I guess you could say. And he said that as soon as the Russians started to deploy artillery on the outskirts of Moscow is when he turned back and he ended it. And so that's the main reason why he ended it, is because he saw Russia was bringing out their artillery. And obviously he knows how the Russian army works with their artillery. We've all seen it in Ukraine. And so, he basically felt like he didn't want, this bloody war caused by him. He didn't want to see Russians killed because of him, and so he decided to turn back. That's basically what he said. And Putin said that apparently the Wagner forces are going to be protected. They're not going to be prosecuted. They have the opportunity to join the Russian military or Russian law enforcement, or they can just go home. That's basically what Putin said. He said that they're not going to start going after these Wagnerites, and he said that Prigozhin is going to go to Belarus, and he didn't say that anything specifically about him, but so that's kind of the gist of that. Later on in the stream, we can actually watch the. I'll play the videos I'll play the video of what Putin said, and I'll also play the recording with translations of what Prigozhin said. But we have more important stuff going on right now, so I'm going to save that drama to the end. But basically, this whole situation, it hurt Putin. Even though Putin came out on top, essentially, it still makes Putin look weak, and people inside of Russia are now questioning, Putin's, how strong of a leader he is. There's a lot of Russians that, are supporting Prigozhin more now. So it's definitely not good for Putin. It made him look, weak. So, the thing about, Putin, and I've said this many times and I'll say it again, is that he's not gonna go down quietly. He's the type of guy where he would rather take out everybody with him than just go out quietly. It's just, so we have to really be on high alert now, because this is the most dangerous time of this war, because now Putin really feels like he's wounded, and think about bears. Some of you guys were talking about black bears in Pennsylvania here. Think about bears, okay? It is well known amongst outdoorsmen across the world that the most dangerous animal in the world is a wounded bear. There's no other animal on earth that is as dangerous as a wounded bear. Okay, and that is what we have here. We have a wounded bear. We have Putin being humiliated by Prigozhin. His popularity obviously took a hit from this whole situation, and the whole situation in Ukraine is humiliating for him. Let's be honest, without Wagner, Russia wouldn't have had any victories for the last almost a year of the war, because the Russian army is just holding the front line. They're not taking more territory. And it was Wagner that came in and took Bakhmut. And now Wagner is gone. They're not fighting in Ukraine anymore. So now it's just the Russian army. And after this whole situation, you're going to have the Russian army doubting, the competence of Putin, especially with all the things that Prigozhin was saying. So you're going to have a divide in the Russian military now. You're going to have some guys that are going to lose even more motivation. Then they already didn't have a lot of motivation to begin with. Now they're going to lose even more motivation because their leadership looks incompetent. And so it's just not looking good right now for Putin. He's not this big, strong leader like everybody thought he was. And the Russian military was not even able to respond to a few thousand mercenaries that were basically literally right outside of Moscow. Okay. And they probably would have taken Moscow, in my opinion. I think they would have gone in there, probably taken Moscow. You got to understand that these Wagner troops, they're not like regular army troops, regular Russian army. You're talking about battle-hardened soldiers that fought in Ukraine and are well-equipped, well-trained. They're more comparable to like Western infantry or even Western special operations. Just look at how long they were fighting against Ukraine. And for months and months and months, they fought Ukraine to a standstill. So they're obviously good fighters, Um, so Putin is a wounded bear, and wounded bears are the most dangerous animals on the planet. So we have to really be on high alert right now because Putin is going to want to do something drastic to seize control, not seize control, but basically gain power again. Not gain power again, but sort of consolidate his power and basically restore his image of being this, invulnerable, tough guy. And, this war dragging on in Ukraine makes him look really bad. But, there's just a lot of concerning stuff happening today. So we have the Russian buzzer. Okay, the Russian buzzer, if you guys don't know what that is, like I said in the beginning, it's some kind of radio it's some kind of radio state. There's radio stations across Russia, and they transmit these coded messages. They're very similar to our emergency action messages here in the United States. Okay, they're very similar, and occasionally they get broadcasted. And today we had a good amount of them. We had especially the buzzer, which is in the Western Military District near St. Petersburg. There was, let's see, two transmissions today. And then in the Southern Military District, there was one today and then also yesterday. Okay. And so these are just very similar to the emergency action messages that I, play sometimes for you guys here. What's also interesting is that the buzzer was broadcasting on Friday when this whole thing was going down. The buzzer was broadcasting on Friday. Okay, so the fact that they're broadcasting today also is pretty concerning. So we had two broadcasts today from the Western Military District, and then we had one broadcast on Thursday from the Western Military District. And then from the Southern Military District, there was one broadcast today, one broadcast yesterday, and then there was one broadcast on Friday. Wait, was it Friday? What's the 23rd? Is that Thursday? It's the 23rd Thursday. Let me see. 25, 24. Yeah, 23rd would be Friday, right? Yeah, Friday. So there were a good amount of messages broadcasted today from the buzzer, and that's not a good sign because they don't usually broadcast on the buzzer that often. It's not a station that the Russians broadcast on very frequently. So usually when there's a broadcast, that means something is going on. So that's why I have a red alert for you guys tonight. And then also, obviously, Putin had this meeting with his Security Council. He met with all the top Security Council members. It was an emergency meeting. So I don't think they were just only talking about, the coup. I think they were talking about other stuff too. And then what's interesting is today we also had a bunch of doomsday planes, Russian doomsday planes that were in the air. So that's pretty interesting as well. What's going on, Earth Angel? How's it going? So let me just share that with you guys. I'm going to just share my screen here. So we had a bunch of Russian doomsday planes that took off from Astrakhan. Astrakhan is a base on the Caspian Sea. It's a very secretive base. They have done ICBM test launches from Astrakhan, and there was a whole squadron of Russian doomsday planes that took off from Astrakhan, as you can see here in this screenshot. All right, there was the Tupolev Tu-214 PU-SBUS, which is the Russian presidential doomsday plane. There were some communications relay planes here, and they all took off from Astrakhan, okay? So that's also kind of concerning when you look at, Putin having an emergency Security Council meeting, when you look at the Russian buzzer going off. All these things put together is pretty concerning. Let me show you guys some other screenshots here. So here we have a zoomed in picture showing some of these doomsday planes landing in Moscow. This was today, not too long ago. All right, so you could see three of them, including the Russian presidential doomsday plane, the Tu-214 SBUS, all of them going to Moscow today from Astrakhan. So pretty interesting, okay? I don't know what's going on, but there's definitely something going on, okay? So we have to make sure that we're on high alert right now. So let me continue on here. We also had an interesting situation yesterday over the Black Sea. We had some NATO aircraft that were operating in Romania. Here you can see a P-3 Orion, which is a sub-Hunter plane. It was flying along the Romanian Black Sea coast. And there was a lot of NATO planes in this area yesterday in Romania. There were several recon planes operating. There was a RC-135, which is an ISR plane. There was a CL-60, which is like a privately owned leased plane that's leased by the military, the U.S. military. They lease these planes from a private company, and they have a whole sensor suite. And that thing was flying along the border with Moldova. So something's brewing here. But what's interesting is during this entire event, when Prigozhin made his coup attempt, there was no NATO planes in the air at all. Okay, and all of a sudden today they start to reappear. So that tells me that they were either grounded to avoid an accidental, confrontation, or they were flying with their transponders off. And there was actually an RC-135 that was in the Black Sea, and it was actually intercepted by a Russian fighter jet. So I have a video of that, but look at all this activity in Romania last night. And then out here, you can see this RC-135 that was escorted by two Eurofighter Typhoons, okay? So look at all these recon planes. I mean, this is intense reconnaissance here, okay? We have the CL-60 flying along the border with Moldova, back and forth, back and forth. You got this P-3 Orion flying along the Romanian Black Sea coast. And then looks like this was a Strato tanker here, but just heavy reconnaissance in Romania today and last night. And this RC-135 being escorted by two Eurofighter Typhoons, and then it actually gets intercepted by Russian fighter jets. So this is how an escalation, an accident could happen. Is we're escorting our intelligence planes in international waters, and then Russia tries to intercept it, and then we shoot down the Russian jet, or something happens, whatever. But let me show you this video. This was published by the Russian Ministry of Defense, and it shows this RC-135. This is an American RC-135, and it was intercepted by Russian fighter jets, but it was also being escorted by Eurofighter Typhoons. So this video is coming from the Russian Ministry of Defense. So this was filmed by the fighter pilots, the Russian fighter pilots, and it looks like up there was the second Russian fighter pilot. Okay, these were Sukhoi 27s. And this was a British recon plane. You see Royal Air Force. All right, they're in international waters, guys. The Russians are harassing these planes that are flying in international water. Okay, 100+ miles from the border of Russia. What's going on, New York Adventurer? Ross Niderman. So for those of you guys just tuning in, the Russian buzzer was active today in various areas across Russia, various military districts. The Russian buzzer was active. Nobody truly knows what the buzzer is, but I'm guessing, and many people that follow this stuff are guessing, that it's like a Russian emergency action message that they're communicating with their nuclear forces, okay? So this is all just breaking news today. I wasn't even planning on going live. I threw everything together at the last minute. So, I'm trying my best to present to you this information as smoothly as possible. This was an interesting flight path. Two of them, apparently two U.S. Air Force aerial refuelers, were near the Faroe Islands, north of Scotland, doing loops over here in the North Sea or the North Atlantic. This is pretty unusual. There's no important bases on the northern side of Scotland, but on the western side of Scotland, that's where Britain has their nuclear armed submarines. They have main base there for all their nuclear armed subs in one of these bays over here, just not too far from Glasgow. All right, but these two aerial refuelers here in the North Sea is pretty suspicious. They might not even be aerial refuelers; they could be reconnaissance planes, and they're using the tag of a aerial refueler. But either way, it's suspicious. It means they were refueling something that was invisible to flight trackers. If they are truly aerial refuelers, they were refueling something here that was invisible to flight trackers. They had the transponder off, okay? And this is not a common occurrence to have them flying to the northern side of Scotland. It's pretty common to see them in the North Sea, especially the last like 3 or 4 months since the whole Nord Stream pipeline thing. They've been patrolling the North Sea, like between Denmark and the UK in this area here. But it's pretty unusual to see them over here, like closer to the Faroe Islands. It's pretty unusual. So I don't know what was over here. Maybe a Russian sub. I mean, we just don't know. But I thought I would share that with you guys. So let me continue with some more stuff here. We also had a bunch of Eurofighter Typhoons in the Baltics yesterday. And speaking of that, we have some major breaking news coming from the Baltics, which I forgot to mention in the beginning of my stream. Apparently, NATO is now going to be deploying 4,000 troops to Lithuania. Okay, let me just verify that and make sure I have that right. Okay, so Germany is planning to deploy an additional 4,000 troops to Lithuania on a long-term basis. In addition, NATO is going to change the status of the Air Force mission for the protection of the skies of the Baltic countries from policing to combat. Thus, the NATO fighters will be able to participate in hostilities and will be integrated into the defense plans of Lithuania. Okay, so that is just massive news, guys. Okay, that is huge. All right, so for those of you guys who don't know what that means is, so the Baltic countries like Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, they don't have their own air force because they don't have enough money to buy fighter jets. So they are reliant on other countries in NATO to police their skies and make sure that Russia doesn't violate their airspace, right? So because they can't do it themselves. So they're typically Poland, and I'm not sure what other countries. I know Poland is part of the program. Poland uses their F-16s, and they basically patrol the Baltic countries' airspace to make sure Russia doesn't violate it. And that's known as the Baltic Air Policing Mission. So now NATO is changing that mission from policing to combat. Okay, so that is just huge news. Okay, that is huge. All right, the fact that they're activating them for combat is massive news, and then deploying 4,000 troops to Lithuania. I mean, come on, guys, that is very unusual. Somebody asked me if they're going to be going after the Suwalki Gap. Yeah, they could. Russia could be going after the Suwalki Gap. The last few months, myself and Lee Wheelbarger have been monitoring the Baltic countries and Belarus and Poland. There's been a ton of NATO reconnaissance in that area for the last few months. And now all of a sudden, NATO decides to change the policing mission from, to a combat mission in the Baltics. I mean, that's very suspicious. And then in addition to that, the Polish military is currently on the highest level of alert possible. Okay, the Polish military has activated an emergency status. So the Polish military is on like the highest level of alert right now. And they're also strengthening their border checkpoints and things like that. So I don't know what's going on, but I wanted to just report this to you. Um, so it's just absolutely insane, guys. Things are really escalating. Um, so it's just absolutely insane, guys. Lots of stuff going on. So, once again, they're changing from a policing mission to a combat mission. Okay, what does that mean? I'm not exactly 100% sure, but that's what's going on. Okay, so uh, NATO is changing the status of their Air Force mission from policing to combat. Okay, so uh, pretty crazy, guys. Pretty insane. Hold on one moment, please. I'm trying to update the title here so people can see what this stream is about. Uh, okay, so this is just huge news, guys. Absolutely huge. Um, they're changing from air policing to combat status. This was stated by NATO. Okay. This was stated by NATO. They're changing from air policing to a combat status. And so what that would allow NATO planes to do is, in case of a conflict, those planes would be integrated into Baltic uh, air defense plans. Okay, so they're no longer just policing anymore. They're integrating into the actual combat plans. Okay, so this is serious news, guys. Okay, Germany deploying 4,000 troops to Lithuania, and of all the countries, they're sending them to Lithuania. That's where the Suwalki Gap is, and they're changing the mission, the air mission, from policing to combat. I mean, that is just absolutely huge. And then Putin giving this speech today, Emergency Security Council meeting. I mean, things are just getting really, really, really crazy here. So here we have a screenshot of some Eurofighter Typhoons that were flying over Estonia yesterday. So things are getting crazy. I saw somebody in the chat said, pray for Poland. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Um, it's possible that the next target could be the Baltic countries, or Poland or the Suwalki Gap. We just don't know. But the Polish military is on the highest level of alert right now, and they've strengthened their border with Belarus. And another thing I forgot to mention also, there's just so much news. It's like I can't remember everything. the Belarusian KGB was saying that that Belarus needs to be prepared for an invasion from the West. That's what the Belarusian KGB said yesterday. All right, they said that Belarus needs to be prepared for an invasion from the West. So we know where all this is going now. They're basically, I mean, the chess pieces are moving into position. Everything is being moved into position. I hope there's no like, exchange between NATO and Russia or something like that, but it's not looking too good. Here's a map showing what would happen if the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant would melt down. I mean, you could see pretty much all of south central Ukraine would be affected by radiation. I can't read what this says here. I'd have to use like Google Lens to translate. I'm assuming they're showing radiation levels, but you could see this huge circle. Looks like probably a 20-mile circle in all directions, completely, uninhabitable. I mean, this radiation would cover all of this area, and it would completely thwart the counteroffensive. Okay, the Ukrainians, I mean, they could do the counteroffensive, but there's not going to be any point because the whole area is going to be irradiated for thousands of years. Okay, just like Chernobyl is still radioactive. Even if they put containment on top of it, the soil would be affected. I mean, all those cities nearby would be affected. So, we'll have to wait and see what happens. But this would be a massive impact for Ukraine if this were to happen. Massive negative impact. So let me read this article to you. This was posted by one of the Russian news agencies, TASS. It was posted yesterday. And it was written by Sergei Karaganov, and he was saying how there's no choice left. Russia will have to launch a nuclear strike on Europe. Okay, so this is absolutely insane. Just crazy stuff going on, guys. Absolutely insane. Didn't KLW say there was leaking in the ponds earlier from possible holes in the liner? Yes, he did say something about that. Yep, he did. He did say that. So let me read this to you guys. Hang on one second here. There is no choice left. Russia will have to launch a nuclear strike on Europe. For 75 years of mutual deterrence, nuclear weapons have saved the world, and people just got used to it. Now we see with our own eyes that nuclear weapons no longer stop because the unthinkable is happening. The West has unleashed a big war in the underbelly of a great nuclear power. The official history of the creation of atomic weapons is known, but from my point of view, there is still a super idea of its appearance, as if the Lord God saw that a significant part of humanity went mad, having unleashed 2 world wars during the lifetime of one generation, and handed people nuclear weapons, the weapons of the apocalypse, so that they would have them all the time before their eyes and frighten them. And now people have lost fear. Over the past decades in the States, Europe, and even partly in Russia, spread what I call strategic parasitism, the belief that there can be no war and never will be. They got used to it, and it is on this soil that the modern Western ideology has grown. Plus, now there is absolutely unprecedented propaganda going on there, which was not even during the years of the Cold War. People are simply fooled, and people are afraid to even say what they really think. As a result, because of these 70 years of peace, the sense of self-preservation has ceased to work in society, And with the help of enchantingly vicious propaganda, this sense of self-preservation is further suppressed, as well as by statements that Russia will never strike at Europe. Official Western propaganda pumps the idea that the West can do anything and Moscow will tolerate it all. And now it has manifested itself extremely convexly and brightly. In recent years, Russia has begun to strengthen its nuclear deterrence, but so far the steps taken have been completely insufficient. At some point, we also calmed down, went in line with Western theories, and recklessly raised the threshold for the use of nuclear weapons, which the West is now using for a reason. They're all the time. Semi-officials emphasize, no, the Russians will never use nuclear weapons. They want us not to even raise this question under any circumstances, as if clearing the way for them for an endless war in Ukraine. But given that their military industrial potential is higher than ours, they just want to wear us out. All right, so the Russians are not stupid. All right, they're not stupid. They know that they know that that's what our plan is. They're not dumb. They know that we're trying to wear them out, and that's why they want to change their nuclear doctrine so it can allow for the use of nuclear weapons outside of just major war. I hope that we never use nuclear weapons, but that we refuse the possibility of using them in all situations, except in the event of mortal danger to the state itself. Seems to me frivolous. Thus, the states tie the hands of Russia and hope in the long run to blow it up with this long war. Well, and as a result, to radically weaken its main rival, China, which in which cases will be left alone. This is a strategic intent that is absolutely understandable. Well, in parallel, the Americans, having already thrown the Ukrainian people into the furnace, are pushing Europe. They're destroying the positions that it has occupied for 5 centuries. They are thus solving another problem. They are destroying the old world as a strategic player and potential strategic competitor. In turn, the Prater European elites are driving their countries and peoples to the slaughter, blah, blah, blah. It gets interesting here. He talks about how nuclear weapons should be used outside of the, just the threat to the Russian state and stuff like that. I want to believe that our opponents will come to their senses, because if not, then the military political leadership of Russia will face a terrible moral choice and the need to make a difficult decision. But I believe that our president must at some point project his determination to use nuclear weapons. However, the question arises, who can and should be the target of such an attack? The Americans, as we all know, shamelessly lied, saying that we were preparing for strikes against Ukraine. This is a monstrous, senseless, malicious, because of course the Ukrainians and unfortunate, deceived people who are being driven to the slaughter. But still, there are our people. We will not hit them. If it comes to nuclear strikes, then we should talk about a number of countries in Europe that provide the greatest assistance to Kyiv mercenary regime. Fortunately, we have begun to take steps up the ladder of nuclear deterrence, but we need to move faster and more decisively. Although, of course, the use of nuclear weapons is a monstrous step, it should be avoided if possible. But as the vector of development of the West, its elite and society, their movement towards anti-human and post-human values shows, all this clearly indicates an objective approach to a big thermonuclear war. He's basically calling for strikes on Europe, this guy, okay? And this is being put out by a major Russian newspaper, RIA Novosti, okay? I mean, could you imagine if, like, the New York Times posted an article by an editorial from some, professor or general that was saying, we got to do a preemptive nuclear strike on Russia? I mean, they're talking about this on a daily basis, guys. let's see here. The launch of the special military operation was significant and, of course, the right step. Although, from my point of view, we should have done it earlier. A number of other measures can be taken. In particular, it is worth conveying to everyone in the West that any strike against Belarus is a strike against Russia and will entail appropriate consequences. And so maybe that's why Belarus is now claiming that, oh, the West is going to invade Belarus, because then they can justify using nuclear weapons, because they could say, oh, we had information that, they were going to invade us, so we used our nuclear weapons, So this could just be a buildup to that, and that's what the excuse is going to be when they do launch nuclear weapons. And Belarus already has those nuclear weapons. Russia already transferred them there. So this is just pretty insane. Let me see, what else does this say here? When discussing the topic of a hypothetical nuclear strike on Europe, the question arises, how will the United States respond to it? Virtually all experts agree that under no circumstances will Americans respond to a nuclear attack on their allies with a nuclear strike on our territory. By the way, even Biden let it slip openly about it. However, Russian military experts believe that massive retaliatory strikes with conventional weapons may follow. This can be pointed out that in response to a massive non-nuclear strike, even more massive nuclear strikes will be delivered, and they will do away with Europe as a geopolitical entity, which of course we would not want, because nevertheless we are Europeans to a certain extent. So this guy is basically saying that the United States would not respond if Russia launched a nuclear strike on Europe. And I hate to say it, but I feel that way sometimes. I feel like we wouldn't respond, that we would just absorb it to basically avoid a nuclear war. We would just allow it to happen and not respond. It's just insane. And the Russians believe that. So this is just crazy, guys. Just absolutely insane. Let me see. I have some other stuff here. Let me see. I'm going to play some of these Russian buzzer messages once again. So for those of you guys just tuning in, we have some major breaking news. NATO is changing their air mission in the Baltics from policing to combat, which is going to allow the NATO air forces in the Baltics to be integrated into the defense plans of the Baltics. We also have Germany moving 4,000 troops to Lithuania. Okay. 4,000 troops, guys. 4,000 troops. That's insane. That's a massive number of troops. Okay, we're not talking about like a tiny amount. That is significant. Okay, significant number of troops being moved to Lithuania. Lithuania is where the Suwalki Gap is. Okay, the Suwalki Gap is a little sliver of land between Kaliningrad and Belarus. Many people are afraid that Russia could try to create a land bridge connecting, Belarus to Kaliningrad. So let me just, I'm going to play one of these Russian buzzer messages that was going off today. Let me play it for you guys. You may want to turn your volume down just a little bit. For some reason, they come out a little louder when I play these. So you may want to just turn it down like a couple notches. Let me see here. So this guy, Sergei Karaganov, he's a member of one of the Russian Security Council. He's a member of the Russian Security Council. The guy who was calling on nuclear strikes on Europe. Okay, so that's pretty crazy. Pretty insane. Let me play some of these buzzer messages for you guys so you guys can hear what they sound like. This is the famous Russian buzzer. It was very active during the Cold War. And the reason why they call it the buzzer is it has this loud buzzing sound. And it used to actually interfere with American communications and NATO communications in Europe because it was so strong. The signal was so strong. And so they probably use this to communicate with their nuclear forces. Hold on, let me see if it's working. Sorry about that, guys. I'm trying to get this set up here. Should sound good now. Let me see.
Николай, Женя, Татьяна, Иван. Николай, Женя, Татьяна, Иван. 74, 312. Роман, Анна, Зинаида, Борис, Иван, Елена, Николай, Мягкий, Елена. 51, 76, 35, 59. Николай, Женя, Татьяна, Иван. Николай, Женя, Татьяна, Иван. 74, 312. Роман, Анна, Зинаида, Борис, Иван, Елена, Николай, Мягкий, Елена. 51, 76, 35, 59. Прием!
So this is the Russian buzzer. Okay, so there were a few of these transmitted today. So it's pretty concerning. They usually don't transmit these that often, and a lot of people think that these are communications with Russian nuclear forces. They're kind of like EAMs for Russia. Okay, so this was one of them. There were a few others. But I don't know if I want to bother making you listen to all of them. You may find that boring. Let me see if let's just listen to the next one. There's only like 4. We'll just listen to them real quick so we can hear them. I'll just play them for you. Let me see here. Hold on one second, guys. I'm trying to set this up here. Okay, let's play it again. Let me see. It doesn't look like it's working. Well, anyway, I don't think we should waste too much time on that. Maybe I'll go back to that in a little bit. So let me read this article to you guys. So this is what I was just reading to you. Sergei Karaganov, a member of the Scientific Council under the Russian Security Council, has already published a second article that Russia will have to launch a nuclear strike on Europe. The article was published on the Kremlin's main propaganda website, RIA Novosti. It was written by Sergei Karaganov, a doctor of sciences and history and a political scientist. The article's full title is "There is no choice. Russia will have to launch a nuclear strike on Europe." Okay, I mean, this is just insane. I can't believe this. Just absolutely crazy. What's going on, New York Adventurer? Smoking Swamp, take care. Have a great night. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks to all the moderators, Lorna, Jacqueline James, Lynn Dunn, great to see you. Kingdom Prepper, thank you guys so much. Lee Billy, Ross Snyderman. So I'm going to continue reading here. And this is not his first such material. Less than 2 weeks ago, Karaganov published a similar article, the essence of which boils down to the same thing. Russia must launch a preemptive nuclear strike on Europe. It was published in Profile, a private magazine. And he says, I hope that we will never have to use nuclear weapons, but the fact that we refuse to use them in all situations, except in the event of a deadly danger to the state itself, seems frivolous to me. Okay, so pretty insane, guys. And Medusa, which is Medusa is like a opposition paper. They're against the Russian government. They said that these threats may be something more than the usual empty talk. Okay, and again, Putin today had a meeting with his Security Council. Okay, he had a meeting with his Security Council today. All right, and there's the Russian buzzer going off. So this is just absolutely crazy, guys. I mean, we could just be hours or days away from some kind of massive escalation. You know, we have to wait and see, but just absolutely crazy, guys. It's a crazy situation. So I'm gonna just read this article here. Let me switch my screen. Political scientist Sergei Karaganov called on the Kremlin to launch a nuclear strike on Poland. Wow, look at that. Okay, this guy he's like a higher level person. He's not like some nobody, He's a powerful person. He's got a lot of influence. So what's going on, NYPrepper? How's it going? Yep, that would invoke Article 5. That's correct. That would invoke Article 5. So let me continue on here. Profile magazine published and Russia in Global Affairs reprinted an article by political scientist Sergei Karaganov, the essence of which is that Russia must launch a preventative nuclear strike on Europe in order to break the will of the West and achieve victory in the war with Ukraine. Threats to use nuclear weapons from Moscow have been heard literally from the first 2 weeks of full-scale aggression. Putin himself is engaged in this. Nevertheless, Karaganov's article, unfortunately, does not look like just another shaking of the air. Medusa special correspondent Andrei Pertsov explains why. So this is just crazy. There's a long article here. I'm not going to bother, reading this whole thing. But it's pretty concerning. Let me just go to some other stuff here. Let me see, what else do we have? We have some more breaking news regarding Prigozhin. His plane flew from Rostov to St. Petersburg after the rebellion. Okay. On June the 25th, the plane of Wagner Group leader Yevgeny Prigozhin flew from Rostov-on-Don to St. Petersburg. It is reported that on June 25, the Embraer Legacy 600 jet took off from St. Petersburg and turned off the transponder near the Rostov region, blah, blah, blah. Around 1800 on the same day, the plane appeared again on radar over the Tambov Oblast and returned to St. Petersburg. So this is the playback of the flight. So Prigozhin's plane went from Rostov to St. Petersburg. After that, we don't know where it went, but it's pretty interesting. Here's a playback here of the flight. So pretty interesting news there. And there's been a lot of these people speculating that Wagner is now going to attack Ukraine from Belarus, and the Ukrainian military said that they're not worried about it, and they said that would be suicidal for Wagner. So that's pretty interesting. Let me read this to you. Joint Forces Commander on possible attack of Wagner mercenaries from Belarus. It will be nothing but suicide. The commander of the Joint Forces of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, Lieutenant General Serhiy Naiv, stated that there is no buildup of Russian equipment or manpower on the northern border of Ukraine. If the Russians try to cross the border from the north, it will be suicide for them. I want to assure everyone that the situation in the northern operating zone remains stable and controlled. Our troops continue to build up their defensive capabilities. All services from intelligence to engineering troops are working in an enhanced mode. So far, there has been no buildup of equipment or enemy personnel. The state border is reliably protected 24/7. If this happens and the enemy tries to cross the state border, for them it will be nothing but suicide. Our soldiers are ready to give a decent response to anyone who dares to cross the state border with weapons in their hands. Okay, so that's this guy right here. Okay, so I guess the Ukrainians are not too worried about that. So just a crazy situation, guys. Absolutely crazy. So let me see. I'm going to see if I can play that buzzer again. Let's see here. So, let's play Putin's speech from earlier today. I'm going to play Putin's speech for you guys. Okay, let's get into this speech here and listen to this. Let me see. Hold on. I may have to restart this. 1 second. 1 second. So this is Putin's speech from earlier today, talking about the coup attempt. Lorna says, no complaining about the buzzer or Greg will play Graham on loop again. That's so funny. That was funny. Yeah, that was crazy. Lynn Dunn, have a good night. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you're doing well. James Garcia says, Greg, this is James Style from Southern California. What's going on? Ex-NYPrepper says, besides prepping, don't forget Jesus at these times. Only he can save us from Devil Biden. Let's see here. Let me play this. Let's listen to this for a few minutes. Well, you can actually just watch. On the bottom, they translated it, so you can read the translation, what he says. It's very short, but let's just see what he said here.
Дорогие друзья, сегодня еще раз обращаюсь ко всем гражданам России. Благодарю вас за выдержку, сплоченность и патриотизм. Эта гражданская солидарность показала, что любой шантаж, попытки устроить внутреннюю смуту обречены на провал. Повторю, была проявлена высочайшая консолидация общества, исполнительной и законодательной власти на всех уровнях, твердую, однозначную позицию поддержки конституционного порядка заняли общественные организации, религиозные конфессии, ведущие политические партии. Фактически все российское общество. Всех объединило и сплотило главное – ответственность за судьбу Отечества. Подчеркну, с самого начала событий незамедлительно были приняты все необходимые решения по нейтрализации возникшей угрозы, по защите конституционного строя, жизни и безопасности наших граждан. Вооруженный мятеж в любом случае.
So here he says the armed rebellion would have been put down in any case.
Был бы подавлен. Организаторы мятежа, несмотря на утерю адекватности, не могли этого не понимать. Все они понимали, в том числе то, что пошли на преступные действия, на раскол и ослабление страны, которая сейчас противостоит колоссальной внешней угрозе, беспрецедентному.
So this is interesting what Putin says. He says they understood it all, including that they had criminal action, that they had split and weakened a country that is now facing a colossal external threat and unprecedented pressure from abroad when our comrades are dying on the front lines amid cries of never retreat. So Putin thinks that, Russia's survival is on the line here. And if you watch his speech from the coup attempt, he looked scared. I mean, not scared, but he looked like he really believed that, that he felt threatened. Let's be honest. He felt threatened. And if you remember when I was covering it, his doomsday plane took off from Moscow and went to St. Petersburg. And same thing with Medvedev. Medvedev and Putin both left Moscow when this coup was happening. Okay. So what does that tell you? These guys, they don't have any balls, okay? Say what you want about Zelensky, but Zelensky never left the capital of Ukraine, even when the Russian military was right there. And Putin and Medvedev just immediately fled, like a bunch of rats. So let me just continue with this video here, and you can read the subtitles on the bottom.
Прецедентному давлению извне, когда на фронте со словами «ни шагу назад» гибнут наши товарищи. Однако организаторы мятежа, предав свою страну, свой народ, предали и тех, кого втянули в преступление, лгали им, толкали их на смерть, под огонь, на то, чтобы стрелять в своих. Именно такого исхода братоубийства хотели враги России и неонацисты в Киеве, и их западные покровители, и разного рода национал-предатели. Хотели, чтобы солдаты России убивали друг друга, чтобы погибли военнослужащие и мирные жители, чтобы в конечном счете проиграла Россия, а наше общество раскололось, захлебнулось в кровавой междоусобице. Они потирали руки, мечтая взять реванш за свои неудачи на фронте и в ходе так называемого контрнаступления. но просчитались. Благодарю всех наших военнослужащих, сотрудников правоохранительных органов, специальных служб.
Yes, Josephine, he is the ultimate rat.
Которые встали на пути у мятежников, сохранили верность долгу, присяге и своему народу. Мужество.
Yeah, his face looks really puffy. So, I mean, it's just kind of a BS message, basically trying to say that, they saved, that they were prepared and they were going to neutralize this, and they immediately took action, let's be honest, they were panicking. Putin was panicking. The Russian Ministry of Defense was panicking. They were crapping in their pants, okay?
Самопожертвования павших героев-летчиков уберегли Россию от трагических разрушительных последствий. Вместе с тем, мы знали и знаем, что подавляющее большинство бойцов и командиров группы «Вагнер» – это тоже патриоты России, преданные своему народу и государству. Они доказали это своим мужеством на поле боя, освобождая Донбасс и Новороссию. Их попытались использовать в темную против своих братьев по оружию, с которыми они вместе сражались ради страны и ее будущего. Поэтому с самого начала событий по моему прямому поручению предпринимались шаги, чтобы избежать большой крови. Для этого потребовалось и время, в том числе.
So pretty interesting. Let's just listen to the rest of this here. Subtitles. He just says, "I am grateful to the president of Belarus. I repeat, it was precisely the patriotic spirit of citizens and the consolidation of Russia's entire society that played the decisive role in these past few days. The support allowed us together to overcome the most difficult challenges of our motherland. Thank you for that." So that's pretty much it. That's basically all that Putin said, but he had a Security Council meeting, so something's going on. I don't know what, but it's pretty crazy here. Maybe we can check out. Let's check out what Marco Rubio's analysis was of the whole Prigozhin thing. Let's listen to what Marco Rubio said. Let's listen in and see. This guy, he's got a top secret clearance, so he's got a lot of insight. He's obviously not going to say everything he knows, but I mean, it's kind of just repeating what we already know, I think, but let's see what he says.
Best way to understand what's gone down in Russia over the last 4 days. There's this private military contractor named Wagner, run by this guy Prigozhin, who's very close, or was very close, to Putin. And he sent him on missions all over the world with his private army. They sent him to Ukraine because the regular Russian military was not doing well. And this Wagner group is full of convicted felons and criminals and murderers, but also professional soldiers. They're well-fed, they're well-equipped, and they actually outperform the Russian military. This guy Prigozhin, he likes attention. He runs the Internet Research Agency, which was indicted for interfering in the U.S. elections in 2016. And he starts putting out videos showing how good his guys are compared to how bad the Russian military is. And so it creates even more friction on top of friction that already existed, by the way. There comes a point where Prigozhin basically realizes they're going to come after me. So I better go after them before they get me. And that's what he does. He moves on this town called Rostov-on-Don. That is where the headquarters are for the military's efforts in Ukraine. I think he was trying to go and capture at least the general in charge of the army, if not also the defense minister who was there earlier in the day. But those guys get away, and so he hasn't able to get them. So then he starts marching towards Moscow, and he gets to the outskirts when the president of Belarus, or the fake president of Belarus, somehow convinces him to take some off-ramp and back off. We don't know what promises were made. And I imagine Prigozhin's probably thinking at that point, I've embarrassed these guys enough, okay? I took their headquarters, I forced them to flee, I came to the outskirts of Moscow, they couldn't even protect Russia, much less how they're gonna win in Ukraine. I've embarrassed them in front of Putin, certainly now he's gonna fire them, like I've been asking him to do. And so whatever promises they made Prigozhin, he took that deal. But then Putin comes out today and says, we're not keeping any promises. You're going to face justice, and your fighters, if they don't break away from you, are also going to face justice. So they'll have a choice to make. And now we don't know what happens next. We really don't. But it's all speculation from here on out. But that's generally the lay of the land. It was probably best described as a coup against the Russian Ministry of Defense in the hopes of getting these people fired and I guess putting someone more loyal to him in that position. So far it didn't work. We'll see what happens.
So that was Rubio's analysis of the Russian coup attempt. And let me play for you what Prigozhin said today. He broke his silence. So let me play for you Prigozhin. What I'll actually do is, to save time, I'm just going to read off the subtitles rather than listening to the whole thing because it's 11 minutes long. So I'm just going to read off what Prigozhin said. John Hoover, what's going on? So this is Prigozhin. He broke his silence today. He released this long recording. As typical of Prigozhin, he likes to release these long, dramatic recordings instead of getting right to the point. So let me read to you what he said. He said, today I opened my press services and got 1,000 questions regarding the events that took place. So there wouldn't be wrong interpretations. I want to answer the most important of these questions. First of all, what was the motivation for the March for Justice on June 23rd, 2023? What's interesting is the date. You know, he launched this on June 23rd of 2023. It's kind of weird. It's almost like he might have picked that day. Maybe he's like into numerology. PMC Wagner is the most experienced and combat-ready unit in Russia and possibly the world. Motivated, enthusiastic fighters that were accomplishing a great number of tasks in the interests of the Russian Federation and only in the interests of the Russian Federation. In Africa, Arabic countries, and all over the world. Lately, this unit got good results in Ukraine by completing the most serious assignments. Let me see. I'm trying to scroll through. Let's see. It's not easy to do this. As a result of intrigues and decisions that weren't thought through, this unit was meant to cease to exist on July the 1st of 2023. So he's talking about the order that the Russian Ministry of Defense gave that basically all private military contractors would have to join the Russian military. So it looks like that was probably the straw that broke the camel's back. A council of commanders gathered and brought all the information to the fighters. No one agreed to sign a contract with the Ministry of Defense because everyone more or less knows from their experiences during the SMO that this will lead to a complete loss of combat capabilities. Okay, so what he's saying is nobody wants to join the Russian military because they suck. You know, they're going from being well-equipped, well-trained, paid a lot, to joining the Russian military, which can't even afford boots for their soldiers. Let's just see here. I'm going to continue on. Experienced commanders and soldiers will be sent as cannon fodder and won't be able to use their combat potential and combat experience, which is true. That's what the Russian military would probably do. That's what they do with their troops. The fighters who decided they want to go to the Ministry of Defense did so, but this was a minimal number, like 1 to 2%. So he's saying only 1 to 2% of Wagner joined the Russian military. All the reasoning as to why PMC Wagner should be kept intact was used. Okay, pretty interesting. But not a single one was realized in attempts to join any other formation where we could be useful for real. We were categorically against what they wanted to do. The decision to move us under the Ministry of Defense while understanding how we felt about the disbanding of PMC Wagner was taken at the least suitable moment. Nonetheless, we were gathering all the equipment and everything needed and took an inventory. And in case the decision wouldn't be made, we would go as a column on June 30th to Rostov to publicly hand over the equipment in front of the SMO headquarters. Let's see, what are you guys saying in the chat? Let's just keep playing this here. Despite the fact we haven't shown any aggression, we were hit with a missile. So he was saying that they were on their way to the headquarters of the Russian Ministry of Defense, one of the headquarters of the war in Ukraine, and they were hit with a missile, basically. And right after that, the helicopters also worked on us. Around 30 Wagner fighters lost their lives, okay? Some were wounded. This served as a trigger for the Council of Commanders to decide that we should move out immediately. I announced that we are not planning to show aggression in any way, but if fired upon, we'll take it as an attempt to liquidate us, and we will respond. During the whole march that lasted for 24 hours, one of the columns went to Rostov, the other went in the direction of Moscow. In 24 hours, we covered 780 kilometers. Not a single soldier was killed on the ground. We regret we were forced to fire upon aviation, but they were throwing bombs and firing missiles at us. In 24 hours, we advanced 780 kilometers, not reaching Moscow by a bit more than 200 kilometers. All right, so for those of you guys here in the States, that's 120 kilometers. That's very close. During this time, all the military structures along the way were blocked and neutralized. Okay, pretty interesting. Let me repeat, no one on the ground lost their life, and this was our goal. So his goal was not to have anyone on the ground lose their life. Among the Wagner fighters, a few people were wounded. 2 Ministry of Defense servicemen who joined us of their own accord got killed. I think he's talking about those pilots that, got shot down. No one among the Wagner fighters was forced on this march, and all knew its final objective. The objective of the movement was to prevent PMC Wagner from getting disbanded and hold accountable those individuals who, through their unprofessional actions, made a giant number of mistakes during the SMO. This was demanded by society. All the military that saw us during the march showed their support for us. We did not reach Moscow by about 200 kilometers after advancing 780 kilometers in both directions. Okay, that's crazy. We stopped at the moment when the first storm unit that came 200 kilometers away from Moscow deployed its artillery and did reconnaissance of the area. Okay, so this is the moment where Prigozhin said he wanted to stop. Basically, that once they saw that Russian artillery was setting up outside of Moscow and were doing reconnaissance. That's when he called it off, because he obviously knows how the Russian military works. They just bombard entire areas with artillery. They probably would have bombarded, civilians, in the area where Wagner was. They probably would have just started peppering the whole area with just random artillery strikes to try to get Wagner to disperse, regardless of any collateral damage. The Russian military doesn't care about collateral damage. They never did. Even going back to the Moscow theater crisis, if you guys remember that was in the 90s. There were some terrorists in Russia that basically held hostage and over 100 people at a theater in Moscow. And the Russian military came in and they deployed Spetsnaz. And what they did was they pumped poison into the air system of the Moscow theater. And they ended up killing not just the terrorists, but the civilians that were held hostage as well. So they killed both of them. And that was, in the Russian military's eyes, that was a success, because even though they killed the civilians, they were putting down this rebellion by the terrorists, which I believe were Chechen. I think they were Chechen. At that moment, it became obvious that a lot of blood would be spilled. The first factor was that we didn't want to spill Russian blood. The second factor was that we were going to demonstrate our protest and not to overthrow the government in the country. At this time, Alexander Lukashenko extended his hand and proposed to find ways for further continuation of work for PMC Wagner under lawful jurisdiction. What else? I want to bring attention to the fact that our march revealed a lot of things that we've talked about previously. So, that's pretty much it. That's, I'm not going to really drag it out here with all these details, but, that's kind of the gist, It was International Popcorn Day. Yeah, it was. C-Dub says the Denver airport shows all of this with the paintings on the walls. Yep, that's right. The murals. They covered those murals up, by the way. Those of you guys who are not aware, they actually covered those murals up at the Denver airport. How could Prigozhin ever trust Putin's promises? Yeah, I don't know. I don't think he does. I think for him, it's just a temporary solution. I don't think he trusts Putin at all. So, that's pretty much it from Prigozhin. I want to play some of these emergency action messages. So this way you got not emergency action messages, these buzzer messages. Let me play one of these buzzer messages here, so you guys can hear. The Russian buzzer was going off today. It's pretty concerning. Let's see here.
Иван Краткий, Василий Борис, единица. Иван Краткий, Василий Борис, единица. 89, 390. Надел. 83, 66. 09, 33. 89, 390. Николай, Анна, Дмитрий, Елена, Леонид. 83, 66. 09, 33. Иван Краткий, Василий Борис единица. Иван Краткий, Василий Борис единица. 89, 390. Надел. 83, 66. 09, 33. 89, 390. Николай, Анна, Дмитрий, Елена, Леонид. 83, 66. 09, 33. Московское время 18 часов 53 минуты. Прием.
So that was one of the Russian buzzer messages. This one was from the Southern Military District. Let's listen to another one. That one was today. Okay, that one was today, and then there was one yesterday. Let's listen to the one from yesterday. This is also from the Southern Military District in Russia.
Для пятерка, девятка, шестерка, Елена. Пятерка, девятка, шестерка, Елена. 29, 351. Бомбовоз. 11, 17. 53, 90. 29, 351. Борис, Ольга, Михаил, Борис, Ольга, Василий, Ольга, Зинаида. 11, 17, 53, 90. Для пятерка, девятка, шестерка, Елена. Пятерка, девятка, шестерка, Елена. 29, 351. Бомбовоз. 11, 17, 53, 90. 29, 361. Борис, Ольга, Михаил, Борис, Ольга, Василий, Ольга, Зинаида. 11, 17, 53, 90. Московское время 18 часов 9 минут. Прием.
So that was the other emergency action message. The Russian, well, not emergency action message. It's like a Russian emergency action message. Gus Pritchett says it's hurricane season for Crimea. Thank you for that donation, lover of the Lord. Much appreciated for your donations. Yeah, hit the thumbs up button, guys. That, pretty crazy stuff going on. Lots of stuff. So I think something big is going to happen very soon. I think that that Putin is going to have to do something drastic to bring back his reputation. He's going to have to consolidate his power somehow. So it's pretty concerning. Let me see. What other news do I have for you guys? Let me see. Biden said he spoke with U.S. allies over the weekend to coordinate a response to the rebellion and asked his national security team to prepare for a range of scenarios. So that's pretty crazy. I'm telling you guys, they went into continuity of government mode. They were in continuity of government mode. Mr. Biden, let's see, they agreed with me that we had to make sure we gave Putin no excuse. Let me emphasize, we gave Putin no excuse to blame this on the West, to blame this on NATO, Mr. Biden said. We made clear that we were not involved. We had nothing to do with it. This was part of a struggle within the Russian system. National Security Council spokesman John Kirby told reporters Monday that the message was delivered to the Russians through various diplomatic channels. We also made clear to our allies and partners that the United States was not involved and would not get involved in these events, and that we view them as internal Russian matters, Kirby said at the White House press briefing. We delivered that same message to the Russians themselves, although through appropriate diplomatic channels. Okay, so they notified the Russians that they were not involved. They made it clear to them that they were not involved. So that's pretty interesting. Pretty interesting situation. So there's this crazy video that was just posted of Russian artillery targeting their own soldiers who surrender. I can't play the video, but there's a video that came out. Basically, Russian soldiers surrendered in Ukraine, and the Russian military launched an artillery strike at those soldiers that surrendered. I mean, that's just insane. So we have some unconfirmed breaking news that apparently the counterattack is underway. The Ukrainian counterattack has begun. I don't know if anybody can confirm. I'm working to confirm this right now. Let me. This is just popping up in my feed. Let me double check and see if this is true or not. Let me see here. Somebody said on Twitter that the counteroffensive is underway, but I'm trying to confirm that. I don't see that anywhere. Let's see. I'm not seeing any information about that at the moment. Maybe it's just a false alarm. We'll have to see. I'm not seeing any information about that at the moment. Cowards deserve no mercy in wartime. Thanks to all the mods, including Lorna. Thank you so much for moderating. Bradley Moore says this is big news. Good night, TM Cole. Freedom of speech only goes so far. You know, this is not a free. This is my channel, so I have to regulate what people say. It's not the Wild West. You know, it's not the Wild West here. So, you know, let me share something with you guys here. Let's see. So I'm not seeing anything about the counterattack starting just yet. None of my sources are confirming that. So I forgot to mention that the Polish military is on high alert. I think I actually mentioned that already in the beginning. Polish military is on high alert. They put their military on the highest level of alert. So that's pretty concerning. We also have the Polish arms company, PGZ, Polska Grupa Zbrojeniowa, on Monday signed a cooperation agreement with General Dynamics under which an Abrams tank service center will open in Poznań. Okay, so the Polish defense contractor PGZ is going to be opening an Abrams tank service center in Poznań, which is in northwestern Poland, closer to Germany. So that's pretty interesting. Cooperation agreement. Okay, so they signed a cooperation agreement. Yeah, that's correct. We have to make sure that we patrol what people say in the chat because this is not my platform. So I'm using YouTube, so I have to follow their rules. Their house, their rules. So please respect me, and I would appreciate that. Harrison Ford is back in the new Indiana Jones movie, and it's being released on my birthday. That's awesome. I got to check that out. I didn't even know about that. I got to check that out. They're singling out Greg, the most polite host on YouTube. Oh, thanks, Steve. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm pretty laid back, for the most part. Yeah, Colby, it's not about censorship. It's about, following the rules. So just please respect that, where no one's trying to censor anybody. It's just that we have to follow YouTube's rules here. Okay. You don't have a channel, so you probably don't understand how that works. But, so let me see here. So let me share something interesting with you guys. This is the air base that the Russian doomsday planes took off from today. This is the aerodrome Privolsky. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but this is that there were several Russian doomsday planes that took off from this airport earlier today when those Russian buzzer messages were going off. You can actually see that. I don't know when they took this picture. It was in 2023, but you can see 3 of these Ilyushin transport planes in this picture. So they definitely keep probably some doomsday planes here. They have launched ICBMs from this area before in the past. This is in Astrakhan. You can see some looks like fighter jet bunkers here. You got some fighter jets here. Check that out. So this is a major base. This is the Privolsky Aerodrome. Privolsky Aerodrome. I didn't even see your comment, Colby. I didn't even see your comment because I was in the middle of talking about something, so I didn't even see what you said. So this is, let me zoom out so you guys can see where this was. This is in Astrakhan. This is where those doomsday planes took off from. It's also pretty concerning what's going on with the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant. Something could potentially happen there. We have to keep an eye on that. KLW World News, Lee Wheelbarger was reporting that that the Zaporizhia nuclear plant, was the cooling pool was drying up. It's continuing to dry up. We have this tropical disturbance here in the Atlantic. It has a 30% chance of development right now. This is remnants of Cindy. Okay, this is the remnants of Cindy. So we'll have to keep an eye on it. see what happens, see what it turns into. Yeah, he was live earlier. Lee Wheelbarger, he was live earlier. Yep. So, yeah, it's pretty quiet from Iran. The situation in Iran is pretty quiet. So, that's pretty much all the latest breaking news that I have. I don't have anything else, so I'm gonna just chat with you guys a few more minutes, and then I think I'm gonna wind down the stream because I don't really have anything else to share. But just a lot of stuff going on. So just make sure you guys are preparing as much as possible. I'm going to be doing some more prepping videos. I know I've been doing a lot of news coverage lately, but I will be doing some more various types of prepping and survival videos and stuff like that. We had some severe weather move through the Northeast today. There were some not hurricanes. There were some severe thunderstorms. We have some breaking news coming in that U.S. lawmakers are calling on Israel to stop blocking the Iron Dome transfer to Ukraine. So that's pretty interesting. Pretty interesting. We also have some breaking news that Kosovo is deploying police in the Serbian minority area of Kosovo. And apparently there was an explosion in North Mitrovica around midnight. So here's a video of the Kosovo police. Let me share this with you guys. Stand by one moment. So this is in Kosovo. All right, Kosovo has a Serbian minority, and the Serbians and the Kosovoans, they don't get along, and so the Kosovo has deployed police to the Serbian minority area. What's interesting is there's like a Z painted on this building there. It's pretty funny. Not funny, but it just shows you the mentality of the people that live there. All Seeing Cat says I'm too scared to look for Bigfoot by myself. That's pretty funny. Yeah, it can be pretty scary. Bigfoot are definitely, intimidating. So this is the Kosovo police, being deployed to northern Kosovo near Serbia. You can see those APCs there, armored personnel carriers, or whatever this would be, like a MRAP of some kind, several of them. So something could pop off in Serbia even. Something could pop off in Serbia. Let's see what else is going on. I have a nuclear war survival video I'm going to be releasing tomorrow. So look out for that. I'm going to release that tomorrow. I'm going to film it after this stream and release that video tomorrow. Let me see what you guys are saying here in the chat. The letter Z is evil when someone says Plan Z. Is there any air traffic? Yeah, it is dark. Yeah, it is dark in Europe. There's not a lot of air traffic in Europe right now, which is concerning. It makes me wonder if something is going to be going down, so they're keeping everything dark again. Yeah, there wasn't too many EAMs here in the States. There were like 17 EAMs today. So let me share with you guys the EAMs here. There weren't that many EAMs. And then, if you missed my live stream yesterday, Ukraine said that Russia has a plan to blow the nuclear power plant. So let me see if I can get the flight tracker on the screen, but it is really quiet tonight over Europe. It's very quiet. As far as military planes go, there's not a lot. Very, very few planes. It's really strange. I don't know what to make of it. They usually go dark when something happens or is about to happen. So, maybe something's about to happen. I don't know. Let me share my screen. We have a lot here in the U.S., but in Europe, it's very quiet. There's not a lot in Europe. There's a lot in the U.S., though. I mean, just like various transport planes and stuff. A lot of C-17s. But Europe is extremely quiet. Let me get this on the screen so you guys can see what I'm looking at here. Stand by one moment here. Hold on one second, guys. Try to get this flight tracker up for you so you can see, but it is unusually quiet right now. We do have one Russian plane that just took off from Moscow. That's pretty interesting. But look at Europe. There's really nothing in Europe. No military planes in Europe. It's really quiet. Really strange situation. Strange situation. There's a lot in the U.S. Look how many are in the U.S. I mean, it is early morning in Europe. It's like 4 or 5 in the morning, but still, there's usually something. And here in the U.S., we have a lot of different planes here, various types of planes, aerial refuelers, lots of aerial refuelers, stuff like that. I'm going to switch to my doomsday filters. I have a special set of filters here so I can check all the doomsday planes. So let's see. We got an RC-135 that just took off from Offutt Air Base. And then we have a Stratolifter accompanying it. That's pretty interesting there. But other than that, there's no E6s in the air. There's no doomsday planes, which is very unusual. Let me show you guys the EAMs. Stand by for EAMs. I'm going to show you guys. I think there were only like 17 today. There weren't that many. Let me see here. Yeah, there were like 17 EAMs today, so not a lot. It's probably about average, I would say. So anything going on in the West Coast? Yeah, nothing. I'll check the West Coast in a second here. It looks like, yeah, Bradley, all the NATO planes are dark. Yep, they all went dark. That's right. Some people in Europe are starting to get up early for their jobs. Yep, that's right. They are. Yep, that's right. Let me see here. If you want to know what happened, you should restart the stream. But basically, NATO is changing their air mission in the Baltics from policing to combat. So that allows them to integrate their fighter jets with the defense plans of the Baltic states. And then the other major, there's lots of breaking news. There was a lot of Russian buzzer messages today. The Russian buzzer is thought to be the Russian how they communicate with their nuclear forces. It was used heavily during the Cold War, and they call it the buzzer because it makes this annoying buzzing sound when there's no message being transmitted. And the transmitter was so strong that it would interfere with radio communications during the Cold War. So that's basically, here's the United States. Look how many planes, these are all military planes. Look how many military planes are over the U.S. right now. And then if we go to Europe, there's like nothing, So this is very unusual for there to be absolutely no planes. It's pretty rare. And then we have this strange aircraft with no flight registration on it. Very weird there in Turkey. Interesting. But it's very strange, very bizarre. the filters I have right now are just it's a military filter, so it's for all military planes. All military planes. And then the other filters I have for doomsday planes, so I can check for doomsday planes and like continuity of government stuff. So yeah, went dark or aren't flying, could be either one. But I'm just saying that this is unusual for there to be like no planes at all. We'll see later on tonight, what happens. But usually like after midnight here in the eastern U.S., they start to come online. But it is very quiet. We have like some helicopter operating up here in northern Norway. So, something could be going down in the next couple of days. I'm really concerned about the nuclear power plant, the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant. We had those huge emergency action messages yesterday, over 200 characters. I mean, that is just ridiculous. 200 character messages, and they were repeated several times. We have a new, let's see here. We have a new animation showing the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant and what would happen. So let me share that with you guys. So this is the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant, and this is an animation showing before and after. Look at this, guys. So this is how it looks. This is a recent image. This was before they blew the dam. And this is the cooling pond that everybody's worried about that could dry up. And you can see how everything is just dried up all around it. And now you have this water here. But this is going to eventually dry up. And all this stuff here is all dried up. This was on June the 20th, this picture here. So this was May 21st and then June 20th. So 6 days ago. You can still see some water here, but that's going to all dry up. It's the summertime. The sun is going to hit that and it's going to dry up. And then all we're going to have is some of the water here. And, that's going to dry up pretty quickly in here in this cooling pond. I mean, based on this picture, you can't really tell much of a difference in the cooling pond. But again, this was 6 days ago. That's a long time. So it could be lower now, but you can't really see a huge difference here in this animation in the cooling pond itself. Chandler says, I saw this earlier on KLW World News, but he was lying about Lindsey Graham saying they would treat its detonation as a nuclear attack. No, he wasn't lying. That's what Lindsey Graham and Senator Blumenthal, they said that they want to pass a resolution, and the resolution would basically say that if Russia blows the nuclear power plant, that they would treat it as the same as if Russia used nuclear weapons in Ukraine, because the radiation would go into Europe, which is true. The radiation would spread. It would. It most definitely would spread. If they do something to this nuclear plant, it would most definitely spread to Romania, Poland, or if it just melts down by accident, just on its own. If nobody does anything, it might just melt down on its own. So big evaporation process. Jackie M says he wasn't lying. Yeah, let me show you guys something here. Stand by. I'm going to show you this this article here showing the damage that would be done if the nuclear power plant melted down. Yeah, I'm really concerned that something could happen at this nuclear plant. Let me see here. So check this out. This is according to the Ukrainian government. Okay. So let's just see here what these different colors mean. So this red zone here is 40 kilometers radius around the nuclear plant. So 40 kilometers is going to be 6 times 4. That's 24 miles. So 25 miles or so all around the nuclear plant. So that's a 50-mile diameter. It's a 50-mile circle where it's going to be hazardous pollution. And then just a little further than that, at 50 kilometers, there would be a mandatory evacuation of the public. Okay, so everybody in this area would have to be evacuated. All right. So you're looking at a 30-mile radius from the nuclear plant that would need to be evacuated. And then up to 60 miles of heavy pollution. You can see pollution would go all the way down to the Sea of Azov. All right. They would pollute, the radiation would pollute the river, the Dnipro River, which dumps into the Black Sea. The Black Sea would get contaminated. The incident of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant would make the Dnipro River unusable for 200 years. The entire river would be unusable for 200 years. The Black Sea would be affected. 2 million Ukrainians would need to be immediately resettled. Okay, 2 million Ukrainians would need to be immediately resettled. So, this could potentially happen, guys. Winds are the key factor. Radiation could spread over 2 million square kilometers, which would create an exclusion zone of 30,000 square kilometers and potentially affect all countries in the region. Okay, all countries in the region. So, just absolutely insane, guys. Absolutely insane. NYPrepper says it's a shame to watch our country and the world go down the drain. It really is. I know. I wish I could truly say my thoughts, but I can't, because of everything on here. But I can't truly say what I think. But how long will that plant recycle that water until they can't anymore? They don't have that much time. I mean, a few weeks. They don't have that much time. A few weeks, few months. It's before something could potentially happen here. And, like I reported yesterday, they put 4 vehicles filled with explosives in this nuclear power plant, so they can move those vehicles around and move them out. If inspectors show up or something, they can move them out. So, that they might have plans to blow the nuclear plant if Ukraine comes through with, guns blazing. They could just blow that plant up, blow it up. So much breaking news tonight. Yeah, a lot of breaking news. Let me show you guys the flights now. I see somebody's asking me about the flights. So let's just check some of these flights here. We have a Strato tanker coming out of Canada. A lot of Strato tankers. That's interesting. We got this RC-135 that just took off from Offutt Air Base. It's pretty interesting. It's not too unusual. They usually go out here and they patrol the missile fields near Cheyenne, Wyoming. They fly in this area to patrol the missile fields. But, you know, good amount of planes here in the States, but in Europe, there's like nothing. We got a C-17 that flew from Connecticut and looks like it's heading to Maryland. That's interesting. We have another C-17 heading down from New England. Interesting there. I think there were a bunch of C-17s that were moved to the UK last night, so they could be coming back now from the UK. They probably moved some equipment or something. Ukraine liberated the village of Rivnopil. Okay, so they took some more land. The Ukrainians took back some more land. Yeah, but anything is possible, guys. I mean, we just don't know. Things are just really unpredictable. I really have a bad feeling about this nuclear plant, guys. So I believe they already started evacuating people from the town over there. I believe. I'm not 100% sure, though. I'm just trying to check if there's anything breaking about Zaporizhia. Yeah, that nuclear power plant is just massive. I mean, it's just absolutely massive. Check this out. This is a comparison of the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant to London. All right, so this is that nuclear power plant. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 reactors. And look at how big it is compared to downtown London. Okay, this is downtown London here. And this power plant is the same size as downtown London. I mean, it's a monstrous power plant. So to clarify, Lindsey Graham did in fact say they would treat the power plant as a nuclear attack. Yes, but that apparently that hasn't been confirmed yet. Okay, Kinkoy says, I'm about to say goodnight. I'm sleepy and I need rest. Good night, Kinkoy. Great to have you. Great to have you in here. Let me see. So then we could play. Let's play that again. Let me see if I could find it. I'm going to play it again. The clip of Lindsey Graham about the thing. clarify, it's set in stone. They have to actually pass a resolution. But I'm sure if the fact that they're just talking about it, I mean, they obviously discussed it, you know. So the fact that they have to vote on it is more of like a formality than anything else. It's not set in stone. I mean, it's probably already kind of like set in stone, but they have to kind of formally vote on it, you know. But I'm gonna play it again for those of you guys who didn't hear this. Okay, I'm gonna play it right now. Looks like there might be no sound. Let me see. Is there any sound? Someone says no. I heard this like 1,000 times. Okay, you can't hear it. I'm just going to play like 2 minutes of it so you guys can hear the gist of it. I don't know why the volume's not working. Let me see.
So we're introducing a resolution today, since the Senate resolution that says that if Russia or Belarus, or a proxy of Russia, explodes a nuclear device inside of Ukraine to stop the counteroffensive or to try to break the will of the Ukrainian people, such an attack should be considered an attack on NATO itself. We're of the belief that a nuclear weapon unleashed in Ukraine would irradiate large portions of Europe where we have NATO allies. And our message is to those around Putin that if you do this, if you follow his order, if he ever gives it, you can expect a massive response from NATO, and you will be at war with NATO. Senator Blumenthal and I want to put everybody in this body and this Congress on notice that the threat of a use of a nuclear device by Russia is real. And the best way to deter it is to give them clarity, the Russians, as to what happens if they do that. They will be in a war with NATO.
Where we have seen firsthand the courage and determination.
So Blumenthal says it clearly that they would treat the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant melting down as the same thing as a tactical nuclear strike. So I'll just play another minute of this and then we'll move on.
Of the Ukrainian people, and now on the battlefield, we are seeing it again. The progress has been slow but steady. If that progress continues, as likely it will, Putin could be tempted to use a tactical nuclear weapon, or, just as likely, try to destroy the main nuclear power plant. Both actions would have dire consequences for the health of Ukraine, but also surrounding NATO nations. Poland is at immediate risk.
All right, so there you have it. He clearly says, or if they try to blow that nuclear power plant, which is just as likely. Okay, he said it was just as likely. He sits on the Senate Armed Services Committee. He's no dummy, you know, he gets briefings and everything. Let's just hear that one section again.
Again, the progress has been slow but steady. If that progress continues, as likely it will, Putin could be tempted to use a tactical nuclear weapon, or, just as likely, try to destroy the main nuclear power plant. Both actions would have dire consequences for the health of Ukraine, but also surrounding NATO nations. Poland is at immediate risk if the use of tactical nuclear weapons or destruction of a nuclear power plant causes radiation to spread, as almost certainly it would, causing significant human harm. This is not a kind of...
Yeah, I'm trolling you guys. That's right. Yeah, I do agree with the senators here. Even though Blumenthal is a Democrat, I've never heard any American senator have such strong words towards Russia ever. I mean, the words he uses is just, he said that NATO would eviscerate, obliterate, and destroy Russian forces.
reckless or panicky resolution. It's based on fact and science, and it is meant to send a message to Vladimir Putin and even more directly to his military.
Right.
They will be destroyed. They will be eviscerated if they use tactical nuclear weapons, or if they destroy a nuclear plant in a way that threatens surrounding NATO nations.
All right, so there he clearly says, or if they destroy the nuclear power plant that threatens NATO nations, in a way that threatens NATO nations. So what does that mean? I mean, who knows? What's NATO going to do if Russia blows that nuclear plant? I mean, what are they going to do? What does that mean? It's anybody's guess. I'm not sure. Does that mean they're going to strike, Russian forces? I mean, I don't know. Sami Shazada, thank you very much for that donation. I appreciate that. Thank you very much for that donation. That's very nice of you. I hope you're enjoying the stream tonight. Earth Angel says, I agree too. Why let them blow the plant before action? They need to know they can't do this. Yeah, exactly. They're trying to basically warn Russia. They're trying to warn Russia not to do it. That's why they're trying to get this passed. But I don't know if it would even matter. I mean, I don't think Putin takes NATO seriously anymore. Maybe he never did, but here, let me continue here.
Article 5 is there for a reason. It doesn't protect only against a specific soldier crossing a boundary, but harm to our NATO allies triggers our obligation when it comes from a hostile force, as would happen if there were radiation that spread, causing significant harm to human life. And this message ought to be taken seriously by Vladimir Putin's generals. His military risks total obliteration by NATO forces if they are so reckless and irrational.
Total obliteration by NATO forces. I mean, that is just crazy. Absolutely insane. See you later, Mr. Landfill. Thanks for tuning in. Yeah, Russia is running the ZNPP, not Ukraine. That's correct. That's definitely true. Chandler Bartholomew says, I think Putler sees it as a guarantee that Ukraine doesn't get Crimea. Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. Russia wants to take preemptive action to stop the Ukrainian counterattack. That's 100% probably what's going to happen. I mean, there's all different kinds of theories. We can't, we don't know for sure, we don't know for sure, but, there's some people that say that this is going to be like a false flag. There's some people that say it's going to be Russia. I tend to lean that Russia's going to do it, but that I could be wrong. That's my opinion. So is anything confirmed to be wrong with the nuclear plant? Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things wrong with it. They don't have a replenishable water supply anymore. So they don't have a replenishable water supply. What they're doing now is they're pumping water from a nearby coal plant. There's a coal-fired power plant. Let me put that up on the screen so you guys can see what I'm talking about. Let me see here. Trying to get that on the screen so you guys can see. Let me see here. Skill Seeker says if they blow the plant, they lose millions of acres of prime ag land. Only desperation would do that. Well, yeah, they're desperate. Putin is desperate, especially now after Prigozhin. He looks so weak, I mean, he looks really weak. So he's definitely desperate. He's definitely desperate. So let's just take a look here. So this is Ukraine. What I want to actually do is I want to just measure. They said that the evacuation zone would be 30 miles all around from this power plant. So I want to just see how big of an area this would compromise. But Russia controls this whole section here. So if this thing melts down, it's basically gonna create a barrier to Crimea, so the Ukrainians can't go to Crimea. Okay, and if you remember, Putin said that they were going to do. They wanted to create a sanitary zone. You remember, like 2 weeks ago, Putin said that we may have to create a sanitary zone so that Ukraine can't launch strikes on our territory. So what if that sanitary zone is melting down the power plant and irradiating this whole section of Ukraine? So this way Ukraine cannot reach Crimea with, they won't be able to reach Crimea with HIMARS if they irradiate this area. Okay, maybe that's what Putin was referring to when he said sanitary zone. He wasn't referring to Belgorod. Okay, Belgorod is where the Russian partisans are active. He's referring to Crimea. Okay, what if Putin was referring to melting the power plant down, and then once this whole area here gets contaminated, there's no way that they're going to be able to reach Crimea with HIMARS, even if Ukraine gets the ATACMS missile. Well, I guess the HIMARS are radiation resistant, the cab, so they would be able to drive into contaminated zones. They won't be able to get very close to the heavily contaminated areas, but some of the more moderately contaminated areas they could drive through and launch the HIMARS, but they won't be able to get out of their vehicles because the radiation is so high. But this whole section here, the Kherson Oblast, the Zaporizhia Oblast, they could contaminate this whole piece here, and then Ukraine won't be able to do anything. They won't be able to go down into Crimea. So that could be the sanitary zone. But the latest information that I have is that according to the IAEA, what they're doing now is they're pumping water, or they're not pumping it, but there's like a drainage canal from this coal-fired plant that's right next to the Zaporizhia plant. So this is the nuclear plant is right here, and then over here is a coal-fired plant. Let me see, where is it? Right, I think it's right here. It's right here, Zaporizhia TPP. So right here is a coal-fired plant, and the coal-fired plant has a canal, and they've been diverting the water from that canal to the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant. So they're using water from the coal-fired plant just about a mile away. All right, the coal plant is literally a mile away, it looks like. Let me measure the distance. So yeah, it's 1.5 miles away, okay, the coal-fired plant. And the coal-fired plant has some kind of water source, and apparently they're diverting that water to the Zaporizhia plant. I don't know if I buy that. I first of all, I mean, I'm not an engineer, but why would they need water for a coal-fired plant? It just doesn't make any sense. I'm guessing they get it from groundwater. Lover of the Lord, good night. Thank you for your support, and thanks for tuning in. Mary Friend, great to see you. Earth Angel Anna says, that's what I thought when he meant by the sanitary zone. Yes, I think that's what it is. I think that's what the sanitary zone was, what he was referring to. Eric Scott says, Trump kept Putin in line and there was zero escalation during his term. Yeah, you can't agree. You can't argue with that. Putin didn't do anything when Trump was in power. And apparently Trump threatened Putin. I'm not sure how true that is, but Trump said that he threatened Putin over the phone and basically said that if you make a move on Ukraine, we're gonna respond with devastating response. I don't know how true that is, but so apparently the UN is saying that they're taking water from the coal-fired plant, which is just 1.5 miles away. Let me just show you guys this. Let's look at this power plant up close here. So here are the cooling pools, or not cooling pools. These are the spent fuel pools, okay? So these are giant pools of water that have spent uranium fuel rods, okay? And these fuel rods stay hot for like 10 years, and you got to constantly keep them cool by spraying water on them. Otherwise, they could overheat and melt down. So they have to, more importantly than the reactors, are these pools. They have to keep the fuel in these pools cool. Okay, they have to continuously spray water on them for 10 years until they cool down enough to the point where they can put them into dry casks. And dry casks are giant, like underground concrete, like bins that are filled with sand, and they drop the uranium rods in there, and then they cover it up, and then they stay in there. But before it can go to dry cask storage, it has to stay in these pools for a significant period of time. And so that's one of the major threats, is these casks or these cooling pools. They may run out of water, and that would be a problem. So Christopher Walls says Greg should do a video about Bigfoot. I've done a Bigfoot hunt on my channel. If you go to my Bigfoot playlist, I did a Bigfoot hunt. I tried to call one at night. I did that in March. I'm going to go out there again soon and do some more Bigfoot hunting. Just been so busy with everything that happened over the weekend and then stuff in my personal life. I just never had a chance to go back out again. Scott loves playing bass, says 10 years is insane. Cole Carl K says, can you give a short recap on what's gone down tonight in Europe? Please and thank you. Yeah, I can do a short recap. You can also rewind the stream back to the beginning, but basically, let me see. I'm going to get my notes, actually. Let me get my notes. Stand by. And, you can subscribe to my Patreon if you want all this information in text format, abbreviated text format. Like before I went live, I posted to my Patreon, so all my members on Patreon got a list of all this breaking news that I was talking about tonight. They got a text list of bullets, very quick. You can read it in a minute and everything that's going on. So that's what I'm doing on Patreon at the moment because I don't have enough people there to do videos. So let me see. Let me just check my notes here. So the major breaking news is that NATO is going to be deploying 4,000 troops to Lithuania, okay, on a permanent deployment. Germany is going to be moving 4,000 of their troops to Lithuania. They're also changing their air policing mission to a combat mission in the Baltics. Okay, so what that means is that, the NATO countries, they patrol the skies of the Baltic countries. And now those fighter jets that they use to police the skies there are going to be considered part of like a combat mission. And the reason they would do that is so this way, if something were to happen, those fighter jets are ready to rock and roll, We also had a lot of Russian buzzer stations transmitting codes today. The Russian buzzer is sort of similar to like the EAMs here in the United States. Nobody really knows what they are, but they usually transmit like nuclear codes. Not nuclear codes, but like nuclear options for the nuclear forces of the Russian military. So that's pretty significant. And but I mean, NATO changing the air policing mission to like a combat mission. I mean, that's huge right there. And then Germany moving 4,000 troops to Lithuania permanently. I mean, that is also huge. Okay, if you remember back in January, I was following all the reconnaissance flights over there in Lithuania and all the troops being moved from Russia into Belarus. Another thing that happened is Putin held an emergency meeting with his Security Council. He made a short speech today. And also the leader of the Russian coup made a speech today, or he released like a little voice clip. Biden said that he was in close coordination with NATO allies during the entire situation, and NATO transmitted several messages to Russia via diplomatic channels to make it clear that NATO was not behind the coup or supporting it. So those are some of the main headlines. And then, and as of right now, we have like very little NATO air activity over Europe, which is a little bit unusual. So that's some of the latest major headlines that I have. Okay. There's also the Kosovo police deploying to northern Kosovo, where the Serbian minority lives. Apparently, there was another flare-up over there. So hopefully that helps. Can I briefly cover the history of Ukraine, or is that too much? There are a lot of people who think Trump can stop this war. As Zelensky said, Ukraine was occupied during Trump. Well, you know, I don't know. I don't know if it would have really mattered a whole lot if Trump was president now, if Putin would have invaded or not. It seems like Putin was going to do it anyway. It's just the response might have been different. It's really hard to say. I mean, nobody has a crystal ball. But actually, the history is that in 2014, Putin took Crimea when Obama was president. Okay, so in 2014, when Obama was president, that's when, Putin took Crimea. And when the whole thing in the Donbass happened, the separatists in the Donbass. So it all started during Obama, and then it seems like Russia was just waiting for Trump to get out of office so he could make his move, because he probably knew that Trump would be a little bit more difficult to deal with than Biden, because he sees that, Biden is basically like an extension of the Obama administration. So he probably figured that Biden was going to be a little bit softer. So maybe that's what it is. I mean, we can only speculate. I mean, nobody knows for sure. Thank you so much for that donation, Bradley. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. No, Russia didn't attack Ukraine in 2007. That was Georgia, the country of Georgia. In 2008, they attacked Georgia. Have any of the Wagner forces been executed? I haven't heard of any of the Wagner forces being executed, no. Skill Seeker says it was Wagner that took Crimea. Yeah, a lot of people think that Wagner was involved in that. It's very possible. So that's kind of, I guess, a quick summary. But, I just have a bad feeling something big is going to be going down very soon. We'll have to wait and see. So, I'm just checking some of the latest headlines here, but trying to see if there's any new news, but we have some more drama going on with the volunteers in Ukraine. There's a lot of drama. If you guys remember James Vasquez was the famous guy, when the war first started. He was embedded with some of the Ukrainian anti-tank units. They had the javelins. And then there was all this drama with him that people were accusing of him of like stealing money from charities and all this. And so now there's like another accusation from some lady. She's a Canadian volunteer. She claims that they had some kind of relationship, and then that he was like issuing threats to her, like physical threat, harm. And then he went on today and denied it. He said that that's not true. And a lot of the people in Ukraine are offended by this whole situation, because it's like these volunteers come to Ukraine and they're like fighting, against each other. And it kind of just damages the reputation of the entire volunteer movement. Let me share my screen so you can see what I'm talking about. Let's see here. which, you know, I agree with that. I mean, I think they're getting a little bit crazy with all this stuff. You know, they don't even have any evidence that James Vasquez did anything, and they're all jumping down his throat, trying to make him out to be like some kind of bad guy. You know, so this is what Kate from Kharkiv said. She said, "Dear foreign volunteers, your help to Ukraine is highly appreciated and significant. But when you come to Ukraine and start fighting each other online, it damaged your cause, reputation of entire volunteer movement and Ukraine as a whole." Okay, and I agree with that. There's so much of this petty drama going on with all these Ukraine war channels and all the Ukraine, you know, volunteers that are bashing each other and stuff. It's so silly, you know. It's like it's really stupid. But James Vasquez made a post. He showed up and made a post on Twitter. So let me play that for you if you guys want to see a little bit of drama. Lee did an update on Rumble 2 hours ago. Tracy, thank you for the support, Tracy. Jane Alaska says, when things do go down, a lot can happen within minutes. I'm curious what level of planning, prepping are people at? Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, if things do go down, you definitely need a solid plan. You know, for nuclear war survival, have a nuclear war survival plan. That's important. You know, I talk about that a lot. I talk about having a nuclear war survival plan. You know, you should have like an underground structure. You should have an underground structure where you can go to in case something happens. I'm trying to find James Vasquez on Twitter here. It's hard to find him. I want to read to you what he wrote and what this lady said. Yeah, everybody's saying that he stole money from the charities. There's no evidence of that. It's just speculation. So we just don't know, but everybody's just attacking him like crazy. You know, everybody's just ganging up on him, and there's not even any proof of that. It's just like speculation, you know. So here's the video of the lady that was. This was the lady here. Let me share this with you guys. So this lady here, she's a big supporter of Ukraine. She's a volunteer. I don't really follow her much, but I've seen her a few times. So let's just listen to some of this drama here.
So James Vasquez started messaging me. James Vasquez is back in the country. I'm so sick and tired of talking about James Vasquez, but James Vasquez has tried to murder me a bunch of times to people. So I moved from Kharkiv because I knew that he kind of knew where I lived, and it's really not that big. He knew the area in which I lived, and it's not that big that he knew it wouldn't take long to find me, and I was too far away from everybody. So now I have people near me, and someone else has my set of keys so that they can't get in. But I just want to make it known right now. I would never suicide myself. If I go missing, somebody please look at him. And outside of like blown up by Russian artillery, can you please look into it?
This lady's saying that James Vasquez could possibly try to take her out. You know, like. Seems like a little bit of a stretch to me. She seems to be a little bit over dramatic. You know, I don't know if she said they had a relationship, or I think it was James Vasquez he said that she stayed with him when she first arrived into Ukraine. So maybe, maybe she's just jealous of him, maybe like, you know, uh, Mary says, Amen, Greg. It sure is not only stupid that takes our focus off what we need to do in lifting up our country and Ukraine in prayer. God does listen to us doesn't listen to us if we pit each other against each other. I agree. I agree with you. You want me to talk about the Holodomor massacre, Chandler? Yeah, the Holodomor. Yeah, I mean, Holodomor was it was during the USSR when they starved the Ukrainians. Millions of Ukrainians were killed. They were starved. Very sad situation. It was basically a genocide. They confiscated all the grain and the food from the Ukrainians. I'm trying to find James Vasquez's channel so we could read what he said. But basically, she says that, I'm not suicidal, so if something happens to me, it's either Russian artillery or James Vasquez took me out. I mean, it's just like, seems kind of crazy to me. I don't know. Seems like kind of a stretch, but that's just my opinion.
Because when you get told, this is months ago, that it's really easy to get shot and dragged off at the front lines and no one will ever find you, I don't want to think like this anymore, okay? I go to the front lines. I help people. I don't want to think about my life. He can say that he's going to expose me for abandoning my children. Everybody knows my story. I didn't abandon my children. I will see my children again, provided this psycho doesn't kill me. I just really want to make it known. I would never suicide myself. If I go missing, please. If I go missing, I'm gone. I know that. But don't stop looking for the answer. All I got. Venora is.
But yeah. So that's pretty much all the latest major headlines. I don't really have anything else to share with you guys, so I think I might wind down the stream now. And if anything happens, I'll turn it on. Any active news? Nothing too crazy right now. If she is threatened, she should have a restraining order and get a gun for self-defense. Yeah, I mean, if he's really threatening her, then yeah, of course. But she could just be being dramatic too, and trying to character assassinate him. There's no evidence. She doesn't have any evidence, it's just, she's just saying she feels that way. There's no like direct threat that he ever made to her. He never really directly said anything, and there were some other people going after him, a couple other people on YouTube, and then also on Twitter, they were going after him. I mean, I don't know. I think the guy helped Ukraine quite a bit, I think tearing someone down like that is kind of low, in my opinion. I mean, he was on the front lines with the tank units. He was broadcasting to around the world. I mean, he did a service to Ukraine, and if it's true that he did steal from those charities, then of course that's bad. But there's no evidence of that. It's just speculation. It's just an accusation with no evidence. I mean, you could say that about anybody. I could say to you, hey, I think you robbed a bank. I really think this guy robbed a bank. Well, where's your evidence? Do you have, security camera footage? I mean, what's your evidence to make that kind of accusation, So it's kind of sad that it's, getting into this kind of gutter stuff, It's just, there's a RC-135 in the Persian Gulf. Okay. I'm trying to find James Vasquez's channel, but yeah, some people were saying that he had stolen valor. I don't know anything about that. Some people were saying there was stolen valor. I don't know about anything about that. I can't confirm that one way or the other. So, but that's pretty much all the latest information I have. If you want to get the headlines, just rewatch the stream from the beginning. And I think I'm going to wind it down for now. I might go back on tomorrow. Chandler says, thank you for the stream and coverage. I am a new subscriber and enjoy your content. Thank you, Chandler. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Tammy says, good night, Greg. Thank you for the updates. Thanks to all the moderators. Lorna, I'm so glad you hung in there for the whole stream, 3 hours. Man, we're doing these long streams, these marathons. I'm not used to it. Earth Angel, great to see you. Jane, Alaska. I'm going to have a nuclear war survival video coming out tomorrow. So those of you guys that are not too interested in the war or in, news, I'll be doing some other stuff too. Eli's mama says, thank you, Greg. I haven't really posted any like prepping or firearms content, survival over the weekend because it was just so crazy with this whole Russian coup thing. But I'm definitely going to be posting, some of that this week. So Lorna says, if you go live, let me know. I have pins at 8 p.m. Okay, he's on at 8. Okay. Yeah, I might go on again tomorrow at 8 p.m. and do a news update. It's probably going to be shorter, though, than tonight. Tonight was just an unusual breaking news update. But I might go on tomorrow at 8 p.m. again or 9 p.m., something around there. What time is good for you guys in general? Let me just put a poll. Let me do a quick poll here. Hold on. I'm going to just let me see. Not late? Okay. So let's say between 8 and 10 p.m. Eastern time, somewhere in there is probably fine, right? Between 8 and 10 p.m. Eastern. I think 8 p.m. is probably the best because then people in Europe, Europe's like 5 hours ahead, so it's late there, but some people are still up. So it's lunchtime in over there by you, Bradley. Okay. Tone says, the family you had you on in the other room. Thank you for the knowledge of life, bro, and peace. Thank you, Tone. I appreciate that. Okay, 8 p.m., 8 to 10 p.m. Okay. All right, so I'll keep that in mind. I don't know if I'm going to go on every night at that time, but, when I do go on, I'll keep that timing in mind. So that's pretty much it, guys. I think I'm going to cut it off now. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks for all your support. I appreciate it, all your kind comments. I really appreciate that, all the moderators. I'm going to continue to monitor all the stuff going on, and I'll keep you guys updated. You guys are awesome. Thank you very much. NYPrepper says, stay dangerous. You too, man. I know you're dangerous. I saw some of your martial arts skills, so I know you're very dangerous. Jane Alaska says it's 7:14. Okay. So that's a good time for you too. See you guys later. Bradley, Mary, Terry, Phil, Bishop. Have a good night, guys, and I'll keep you updated. Take care. God bless. And don't forget the 3 Ps: prepare, practice, and persevere.